Hello ladies and gentlemen, and welcome to the Character Dive, a show where we analyze characters from various sources of media. Let's go! In part 1 of this analysis, we took a look at Yusuke's character arc through the duration of the Spirit Detective Saga and the Dark Tournament Saga. It's now time for part 2. Let's dive right in as we begin with the Chapter Black Saga. At the beginning of the Chapter Black Saga, Yusuke ain't feeling too hot. He's bored, and understandably so. He had many days of excitement up until now, but now he has to sit in a boring-ass classroom with his boring-ass teacher who still probably hates him, listening to his boring-ass lessons. Screw all of that. Where's the next guy he's gotta fight? Excitement and adventure is crucial to a man's growth. It's part of why teenage boys seek thrill and excitement. I mean, look at him, he's bored out of his mind. He's probably sitting there thinking, man, taking hits from Tagoro was a lot more fun than this. Now I'm stuck in this stupid classroom. Man, this sucks. Real talk, which would you rather? Sitting in a classroom listening to boring lectures from a teacher who doesn't like you, or fighting in a martial arts tournament against monsters and getting a chance to see a sexy redhead stripped naked in front of the audience? I'm sympathizing with Yusuke on this. Luckily for him, things do get more interesting. He gets kidnapped by 3 psychic users. Granted, they were working for his sensei, Master Genkai. Of course, Yusuke's not too pleased with this. Well, it's better than being in class, I'll tell you that much. Now here's an interesting moment during this part of the story. Mitsunari, one of the psychics, is disguised as one of Yusuke's friends, using his ability known as Copy. Yusuke is placed in a situation where he has to decide which one of his friends is the doppelganger. This is where we learn about how well Yusuke knows his friends. Alright Yusuke, you got 10 minutes to do this. Now Yusuke has a sense of humor, as he has a bit of fun with this. He asks Botan about her cup size, which gets her a bit flustered. This entire scene is actually quite hilarious, as all the characters get riled up and start arguing with each other. However, this doesn't last long, as Yusuke runs out of time and is forced to pick who the imposter is. Yusuke is disturbed by this, as he knows that the repercussions are heavy if he picks the wrong person. Luckily for Yusuke, he made the correct choice, as Kuwabara was the doppelganger. Now, where am I going with all this, you might be wondering. This can be seen as a minor foreshadowing to Yusuke's weakness. He doesn't enjoy hurting human beings. As we could see, most of the people he's fought so far in this series are all demons. Let's introduce the big gun of the Chapter Black Saga, Shinobu Sensui. We are introduced to him by Koenma, who informs us that Sensui was a spirit detective just like Yusuke. He too came into a scenario where humans were torturing demons. Except Sensui saw something 100 times worse. This raises the question, is it possible that Yusuke could have ended up just like Sensui had he come into the same scenario as him? Yusuke does have an explosive temper, and has an impulsive nature. The story doesn't dive into this deep enough, so let's dive into this for a little bit. Despite Yusuke's aggressive nature, he has a support group to keep him in check. He's got Keiko, Kuwabara, Kurama, Koenma, Kurapi— wait, no, that's a different series. There's too many Ks. Anyways, he's got a lot of friends. Now for Sensui, on the other hand, it's not really established if he had the same type of support that Yusuke did. In this case, he would be more vulnerable to his emotions. Now let's say Yusuke didn't have his friends to support him. The anger and rage he felt towards the people around him would most likely ignite into something worse. Take that along with his mission where he had to go after Terugine. This is a huge stretch, but if he had witnessed Yukina getting tortured under these circumstances, chances are he may have had the same reaction as Sensui. Thankfully, the Yusuke that we know turned out okay, at least for the time being. As the story progresses, we get to meet the many people who work for Sensui. This is the part of the story where we see a major development in Yusuke's character. This is both during and after his battle with Dr. Kamea. A few episodes prior to this moment, there were a bunch of Makai insects that went around spreading diseases, causing people to get sick. Unfortunately for Yusuke, Keiko was one of those who got infected. Dr. Kamea made a terrible mistake boasting about this, as Yusuke gives him the beatdown of a lifetime.
I'm writing advice book for bad guys. It's called Don't Piss Me Off! I learned from Kido about you psychics. Your powers fade when you're asleep. So go to bed.
This man deadass just said go to bed. Man, I love Yusuke. But here's the thing. After putting his lights out, Yusuke thought that he had killed him. There's a huge tone shift where a sense of guilt and remorse creeps over him. He's used to fighting demons and monsters. This time, he had thought he had killed a person. He's not used to this feeling. To come to think of it, this is probably the worst he's ever beaten somebody up, at least up until this point in the series. Off topic, but a funny detail that I should mention. In the English dub, Yusuke is voiced by Justin Cook, who did the voice for Raditz in Dragon Ball Z, where Dr. Kamea is voiced by Sonny Strait, who did the voice for Bardock in Dragon Ball Z. So you could think of it as Raditz beating up his father. Anyways, back to the main topic. This is a huge growth in Yusuke's character. He's not just some punk going around beating people up like he did in the earlier episodes of the series. He has a sense of justice and wants to protect people. His anger came from the fear of losing people that are important to him. On a good note, Keiko turned out to be okay, as well as the rest of the civilians that were infected by the Makai insects. Before we even get to Yusuke's showdown with Sensui, we have got to talk about his battle against Hiei. A very short but important fight in the series. The first time Yusuke and Hiei fought each other, it was pretty one-sided, as it has been documented that Hiei was meant to be a one-off character. His popularity is what kept him around, as he is the best character in the series. No, we are not going to debate on that. Throughout the series, we've seen the massive power level boosts that both Yusuke and Hiei have received. It was now time to see how far their training had brought them. Which one of the two truly have become stronger? They both initiate the challenge. We get intense, adrenaline-pumping action that you would see on Dragon Ball Z. It was a short duel between Yusuke and Hiei, but a meaningful interaction sprung out from it. Hiei indirectly displays his respect for Yusuke, showing the growth in their relationship. Hiei reminds Yusuke of what it took to draw out his inner strength, that being the sight of his friend Kuwabara dying. It's clear that Yusuke's strength is present when he's at the height of his emotions, something that's common for various anime protagonists. A lot happens before Yusuke's battle with Sensui. Most of it focuses on the other characters, so I won't ramble about any of that and get straight to his showdown with Sensui. Yusuke displays a lot of arrogance during this fight, as he messes around with Sensui, provoking one of the many personalities within his mind. For context, Sensui has split personality disorder, which was developed from the shock of his traumatic experience. I do have to say, Yusuke shows a lot of agility during this fight. The way he dodges all of the blasts Sensui dishes out. Dodgeball champion of the century, damn. At the climax of this fight, we see Yusuke experience death for the second time, which sparks heavy emotions from his friends. Now here's where things get interesting. Before being brought back again, we learn that Yusuke inherits demon genes. This explains a lot of what we have seen so far. During the climax of Yusuke's battle against Sensui is when we get to see him in his demon form. I have to say, he looks pretty damn cool. The long hair, the tattooed patterns across his skin. It looks cool. I like it. Yusuke himself was surprised by this at first, but he came to accept it. Sort of. He accepted the fact that he was a demon, but he was wondering where these demon genes came from. Well, it turns out that his biological father was actually a demon king named Ryzen. We enter the final arc of the series, the Three Kings Saga. This is where Yusuke meets Ryzen face to face. As you would expect, the two of them fight each other. But once they calm down, Yusuke finally gets that father and son interaction that he needed his entire life. To think, this entire time throughout the entire series, Yusuke was fighting against his own kind. But in the end, he made harmony between both humans and demons. It's a beautiful narrative that the average person wouldn't think of. We see Yusuke make genuine friendships with what we thought were monsters at the start of the series, and now we see them in a different light. Let's fast forward to the final battle of the series, Yusuke versus Yomi. Now this battle may not be as groundbreaking as his fight against Toguro or Sensui, but there's one key factor that makes this battle important. In the middle of the fight, Yusuke asks himself the reason why he's fighting against Yomi. Sure, it's a tournament, but he doesn't feel like he's fighting for anything. He feels like he's in the same boat as Toguro and Sensui, wondering if he's waiting for somebody to take his life. He hears the voice of his father Ryzen speak to him, reminding him that he came to Spirit World to find the origins of his demon genes. He also remembers the promise that he made Keiko, that he'd find the answers and return to her. Now, he didn't win. However, it wasn't a huge loss. I should have mentioned this earlier, but the purpose of this tournament was to decide politics between the humans and the demons. The conclusion is that they would keep peace with each other, and live separately. So where does this leave Yusuke? Well, our boy finally becomes a man. And in the final episode of Yu Yu Hakusho, we are greeted with the greatest anime ending of all time. Come on, y'all, give it up for my boy Yusuke. Give it up for him, y'all. Yusuke has come a long way in his journey, starting off as a high school delinquent, to being a hero, a strong martial artist, and a good friend. He is quite the badass, one of the best anime protagonists of all time.